Good evening and thank you for joining us for today's program of On Call. I'm Thalissa McClure and of course in studio with me is our resident doctor, Dr. Maxwell Adeyemi. Dr. Max.
Good evening, Thalissa. How are you?
I am good. Welcome to today's program.
Thank you.
All right. And as usual, Dr. Max doesn't have a whole lot of time available to him today. So we're going to see, how best we can make full use of the few minutes that he has available. Today, we are talking directly to women, and we are speaking about an issue that, God willing, all women will go through, and that is menopause. But it's not just menopause. We're looking at weight gain associated with menopause. That's a very scary thing, Doc.
Yeah,
no, because scary. It's like, it doesn't matter what you do. This is a fact of life. It's almost inevitable.
Menopause is a natural progression of life, really. Just like you have menarche, when people start their first period, just like you reach puberty, it's a natural progression of life. So from puberty, you go through your childbearing age, basically, up to around roughly 35, 40 for most people. And then menopause will set in. So it's a natural progression of life.
I don't think it's that people really miss having the period. I just think it's all of the other things that become associated with that period and that stage of your life that, because honestly, I'm sure some women will very happily do away with the period if, life could continue as normal.
A lot of people expect, they anticipate and they look forward to it, okay, because, going through a monthly period every time is cumbersome for some people, and it's really stressful for some people. And they look forward to, okay, look, the time that they, be free from this regular routine. However, other things that come with menopause could be disturbing to some other people as well.
Which is one of the things that we're going to look at today, and that's the weight gain. So, Doc, how exactly does menopause cause weight gain?
There are different mechanisms, okay, that this takes place. Basically, as you approach menopause, okay, you realize that you are getting a little older. Therefore, a lot of things will start slowing down. Okay, the hormones that are being produced regularly before will start to decline in quantity and in concentration, and it is by the mechanisms and the actions of these hormones that some of these weight gain do result. Okay, first among them, you realize that the first thing that takes place is the estrogen level will drop. Okay, estrogen is one of the principal female hormones. Okay, and when this drops, what will happen is that your the body physiology will try to find other ways of generating estrogen, because estrogen is very important in other activities and bone health and other things that should continue in life. So the body looks for other ways of generating it, and one of the ways that it will look for that is to try to go into your fatty cells or use fats to kind of generate these hormones. And when that happens, the fat will be deposited in areas that they are customarily not found. So that's one way. So estrogen comes down. The other thing is that the progesterone level also will drop. And when progesterone level drops, obviously, its own physiologic response for the body is that there will also be fatty accumulation. A lot of metabolic activity will drop as well. Okay, and when metabolic activity drop, what happens is that you have excess calories that will be stored.
Well, Doc, before you go on to the rest, I remember, and I'm asking because I don't know if that's so. I don't hear it as much now. Maybe I'm not listening to the same sources, but I remember a few years ago, there was a whole big thing about estrogen replacement therapy for women who were menopausal. Right. Is that still something that is advocated today, or is there anything supplemental? Or is there something else that people do now? Because I really don't hear about that as much as I heard in the past.
Oh, that is one of the treatment of menopause. We've got HRT, that is hormone replacement therapy, where the hormones that are lacking in the body physiologically, they are introduced into the body through synthetic means, you know, by tablets. However, what researchers have shown is that, or studies have shown is that there are also consequences for that kind of action, because as you grow older and you continue to subject yourself to these levels of hormones, they trigger certain types of cancers. Okay, and therefore it is important that the medical provider or your physician will now weigh the cost benefit. Okay. If you are going to have to take this, these are the consequences of this, and you have to make a choice, okay? And I think over the years, it has more or less, there's a reduction in the popularity of such approach, you know, and a lot of people really have moved away from that. Some will still continue based on the advantage and the risk after being explained to you, and okay, based on other kind of history that will be taken, family history, your age, and other things that you have been exposed to before, and such things will be taken into consideration in order to say, okay, well, yes, okay, some of those hormones were high, you know, concentration hormones before, and over the time they have more or less reduced the concentration of the hormone in terms of unit volume per body, mass and stuff like that. So there's still a way around it that some people try to do, but the general thing is that most people have moved away from it because of the fear of the risk associated with it. Yeah.
Right. So we just dealt with estrogen.
Yeah.
Progesterone.
Yeah, and then the next thing will be the androgen, okay? Androgen is another hormone which is really largely a male hormone, and that normally, you know, is produced in small quantity in females as well, all right? And this is hormone that whenever it's lacking, its activity actually bring about redistribution of fat. And therefore, if you have fatty accumulation around that time, the action of androgen will redistribute that hormone around your midsection, okay? And that is why you realize that men around that age as well, 40, they tend to grow in their midsection as well. And most women and going through menopause will also spread around the midsection, and which is the most dangerous kind of fatty distribution. You can have fat in your bottom or fat in your thigh, okay, they all around the muscle, but when you have fat in your midsection, really, they are insulating some of the organs that are around the abdomen, and they are the dangerous type of fats that we're talking about.
You know, Doc, that is so very wrong. Because I mean, I would not mind having fat redistributed in any other part of my body except my midsection.
Right.
And I mean, it doesn't make sense. All right. So we're going on to testosterone.
Yeah. So testosterone basically is a hormone which is also a male hormone basically, and it's hormone that help in muscular development, you know, when people take a lot of muscle activity and whatever, when they take testosterone, they build their muscles, really. So when you have reduction in testosterone, obviously as you grow older too, your muscle bulk will start reducing, okay? And when muscle bulk is reducing, it means less metabolism, because muscle use a lot of calories for their activity, and therefore you will, you know, have less muscle activity and less metabolism. And if your metabolism slows down, basically, that means whatever food you're eating, obviously you're not able to process it as quickly as possible anymore, and therefore excess calorie deposit and eventually increase in weight.
But is it possible, I mean, I know when your metabolism starts, you know, slowing down, there are many things bandied about as to how you can, is there really a way to jumpstart, even as you advance in age, to jumpstart, to kick your metabolism back to speeding up again?
Yeah, one of the things you can do is possibly you eat less calorie, basically, and eat more fruits and vegetables and increase your physical activity. Okay, when you do stuff like that, and you're able to at least maintain your metabolic balance, okay? Because you remember, increased weight will be as a result of calorie in, calorie out. So you're taking in less calorie, okay? And less calorie will mean less calorie available for you to deposit, okay? And then if you increase your muscle activity or physical activity, obviously you're going to burn more calories as well, so you leave less calorie available for storage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, so it's just about what you eat. I mean, and I know we're going to get to that in a little bit later. How insulin resistance?
Okay.
The relationship between menopause and insulin resistance. I mean, I understand the uptake. I mean, if you're going to have a high sugar diet and, you know, those kind of things, I could understand you. But what's the correlation between menopause and insulin resistance?
Okay. Over the years, the studies have shown that as you approach menopause, obviously there's always a risk of insulin resistance. It goes, okay, what you've been eating and the refined food and other things that you've been, you know, taking in, obviously the body is not now able to completely deal with it. And the level of insulin in your body obviously will increase with the amount of calories that is present. All right, so if you're not dealing with them sufficiently, okay, so if you eat about, say, figuratively 5 kilograms of food, you produce 5 units of insulin to deal with it. I'm just using that as an example. So that means if you take 20 kilograms of food, you need about 20 units of insulin. Okay, so the more calories you eat, right, the more insulin will be needed. Okay, now what will happen as you develop insulin resistance, the insulin is no longer as effective in dealing with that amount of food. And the more insulin that is present in your body, the higher the risk of you, the higher the risk of you gaining weight. Okay. Because insulin obviously increases body weight. So
you're taking in more than your body is able to process, so you end up with an excess storage. Exactly. That's just now redistributed into your fat cells.
Good. And then with the insulin resistance, obviously, and the excess body weight, obviously will come the risk of diabetes. All right? And then that triggers a whole host of
right. And the next thing I know, but I mean the next thing as we're going to talk about is stress. But before we even get into stress, Doc, do you really think that in today's society with how things are, is it even possible to really run away from stress, to really have an existence that is devoid of stress?
Oh no, stress is a present, you know, what do you call presence.
It's one of those things.
Factor in everybody's life, really. Okay, I should say that. You need some stress, okay, for your body to function properly, okay. However, when stress become unmanageable or become too much that you can handle, obviously it could have, you know, negative factor, okay. Now, you have certain hormones that help you to deal with the stress, like the adrenal glands and stuff like that produce some of the stress hormones and stuff like that. Okay? After a while, if you continue to get excessively stressed, of course, you may have what I call adrenal fatigue. Okay? And with that comes metabolic, you know, impairment as well. Okay? And then, obviously, to some people, when they are stressed out or depressed or whatever it is, they tend to eat a lot more. Okay.
Well, I mean, so chocolates and ice cream and stuff, no, they really function as good stress relief. Right. I mean, think about it. It feeds, you know, that part of you. I don't even know how to put it, but it gives you that nice, calming gratification. I think that's it. It feeds into that.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to call immediate gratification syndrome.
Yeah, and then you get stressed out later because now you're putting on the weight.
Because with the adrenal stress and the reduction in metabolic activity, and you're not able to deal with all the food that you are eating, especially carbohydrate, obviously, that is also linked with insulin resistance and obviously weight gain, and then diabetes, and the cycle continues. Yeah. So stress management is a very, very important, and sometimes some of us are able to manage stress well, others are not able to, okay? And when you cannot, you know, from the amount of stressors and your ability to cope with the stress, you get a balance, either a negative balance or a positive balance. When you get into a negative balance, the stress take over your body and then could trigger so many types of illnesses.
I think, doctors, one of the things that they should really start teaching in school as a life skill, how do you manage with stress as you grow old? I think it's necessary because some of us, it's really, you know, not everyone can deal with it.
And stress is no respecter of person. It could happen in children in primary school, secondary school. I say a common entrance child recently got stressed out and could not even function. You understand? I mean, 2-3 days before the exam, she just broke down. You know?
I was reading about a 17-year-old who had high blood pressure that burst an artery and is in a coma. Well, I mean, there were some other factors related with that, but still, I mean, your pressure could only be high like that if it, at that age she was about to take the CSEC exam, which must mean is another stress.
That's stress.
But we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to look at some of the ways of managing your stress to help you to manage the weight gain. We're going to be right back after this quick break.
TIN is now available on Google Play on all Android phones. Simply search for Tobago Inspirational Network and click install, or get the link via TIN 137. With the mobile app, you can watch programs aired on TIN, view photos, see latest Facebook updates, view upcoming events, and watch the live stream. Get the app today from Google Play on your Android phones. Coming soon to Amazon and Apple products. Tobago Inspirational Network. Realizing purpose, fulfilling destiny.
And we are back. Thank you for joining us. If you've now tuned in, we are dealing with menopause and weight gain. How do you manage it, since weight gain is one of those things that basically synonymous with menopause. So we just looked at some of the things that can cause the weight gain, the reasons why it happened. We looked at the change in your hormone levels, estrogen, progesterone, all of those things. And before we went to the break, we were just speaking about how stress can also play a significant role in causing you to gain weight. And the annoying thing about it is that the majority of this weight is distributed around your midsection. Right, Dr. Max? Right. How do we manage weight gain? How do we manage this? Can you still have, I've seen some, but I guess it comes with a lot of work, the probability of having a really nice toned midsection somewhere up in your 50s, 60s? How challenging is that?
Well, it depends on your self-discipline, basically, because I've seen women in their 40s and 50s, and they're really looking top of the line in terms of their body frame, their body structure, and how they have been able to manage their weight over the years, you know. But that takes a lot of commitment, okay, and a lot of effort. It's not just by talking about it or thinking about it or dreaming about it. It's something that you do and you get engaged in and you're disciplined about. All right? So most people get frustrated at that age because they're doing all the things they could do and it doesn't look like anything is happening. So after a while, they just look,
I might as well enjoy my life and eat what I want to eat.
But when one looks at the risk involved of having those kind of weight at that age, obviously with all the metabolic slow down and all the other risk factors like cancer, hypertension, diabetes, and stroke and other health-related matters that may come with that, especially given individuals' genetic predisposition as well. Most ailments around that age, 40, 50, 60, that's the time they will possibly start to rear their ugly heads, you know. So it is important that one focus at that point in time. And most importantly, when you cultivate a habit earlier, so you're in your 20s and your 30s, you start something and you just grow with it, okay? I don't think you make a big impact if you do anything and everything you want to do when you're 20s and 30s and suddenly now you're 45, 50, you want to just make things happen. You have to be a habit that you inculcate, you know, over the years, okay? You have to watch what you eat. You need to get into physical activity, something that at least encourages muscle activity and weight loss, and also discipline your mouth.
When you say discipline your mouth, Doc, what are the things that I need to discipline my mouth about?
Okay. First, you need to make sure that you reduce your calorie. because weight gain is excess calorie. Unutilized calories will be stored. There's no two way about it. And when you have excess calorie being stored, obviously, they'll promote weight gain, okay? So that is converted into fat and stored in other, parts of the body, for storage. So you need to watch your calorie, the amount of carbohydrates you do. You also make sure that your dietary fat is, restricted as much as possible, and the portion sizes in terms of your calorie intake, because I've seen people, put things on their table, on their plate sometime, and you have to wonder, how do you finish this kind of food, but they do. Okay, so we need to watch the portion sizes. That is extremely important. And if it is that you've got factors in your family, people may have or tendencies to be obese in your family, then you will possibly need to do extra work to, discipline yourself and avoid that kind of scenario happening to you. And I've seen people who have taken that challenge. I mean, everybody seems to be obese in their family at a certain age, and they have decided, look, I'm not going to go that way. Mm-hmm. And they discipline themselves so much, and they're able to maintain their weight. Okay? But you should also stay physically active.
So, Doc, as some of the things that you should not eat would be things, as you say, anything that's high calorie. So we're talking about the refined sugars.
Refined sugars, which we call largely empty calories. A lot of us consume a lot of empty calories.
That would be like in your soft drinks.
The soft drink, the soda, and all the
like
excess
those wafers
juice
and biscuits,
right.
those kind of things.
They contain a lot of calories, a lot of carbohydrate that your body really may not necessarily utilize, and it's just stored. Alcohol has a lot of calories as well, which your body will not use. Okay? As a matter of fact, when you take alcohol, especially those alcohol that has a lot of alcohol content, if you look at it, you'll see the amount of calories in there. What that does is, as soon as you take the alcohol, your body will stand at an attention in one way. All metabolic activity will stop, and all attention will be diverted to the metabolism of the alcohol that you're taking.
To break it down? To
break it down. Unfortunately, when it is broken down, they are broken down into sugars and calories that your body cannot use. So you will use a lot of the body energy to break it down, and when you finish breaking it down, the product is useless to your body, basically.
I was looking at a little, it wasn't somebody created like a little cartoon kind of show. I can't remember the thing properly. But what it was, the purpose was basically to show you how your body regulates the type of food that you eat.
Right.
So it was showing when your body get the natural stuff, the fruits, the vegetables, and so it could break it down into every single layer and distribute. Okay, you're supposed to go here, you're supposed to go there, right. And it distributes it. When it gets the processed food now, it comes in, and because it's not anything that's natural, it's all most entirely synthetic, right. Your body doesn't understand how to read it,
right.
And so therefore it goes into storage. Right? So I guess to be, as you say, redistributed later, and so that's when it goes into the fat cells.
Right.
So we don't know what this is. This wouldn't help it in terms of building muscle. This won't help me. So okay, you know what? Put that in fat. And then we could figure out your body will probably go back and try to process it later.
Yeah.
And so that is how the cycle goes on. And so what you find is that the fat just keeps building and then, obese.
And the dangerous thing about those things also is that when your body continues to pile this thing up, okay, some of them, because of the content and the fact that they are not very useful, and the way they are produced and things that are added to them, they may produce what they call free radicals in the body. And the more free radicals that you get in the body, the higher the chances of developing cancers. And those are the other things that you need to be mindful about.
But Doc, you know what I wanted to ask you before we wrap up, because we're about to wrap up. In this day and age, I notice, again, people seem to be going and it's going more after naturals and herbals and you know, kind of more naturalistic therapy, even in terms of treating with things like menopause and so. What was your take on that?
Well, there are things that work, and there are things that has no scientific proof in terms of their mode of operation within the body system. Now, some will use some natural herbs, natural things like maybe soy and like we have the primrose oil and all the other things that some people use. Some of them possibly have what they call phytoestrogens, which is plant-based estrogen, and they try to mimic the body's estrogen that is produced, and that is to replace what is being lost.
And it should be safer than a synthetic estrogen.
Well, theoretically, it should be safe, but there are some arguments in that some of those phytoestrogen do cause some other problems. Okay, so that is in terms of using the plant-based or the naturally occurring, you know, estrogen. Of course, we know the chemical and the synthetic estrogen is what we use in the HRT, which we know have other problems. Okay, and some of them also produce what we call osteoporosis, which comes with menopause as well. So there are quite a lot of other areas of, you know, physiology that we need to understand and we need to explain to people in terms of making decisions. So when it comes to those natural and everything, I don't know what all of them contain. Some of them may have some properties that are helpful. Some of them may not necessarily be helpful to you. So individuals have to make their choices in consultation with their physician to see what is their best approach. And there's some people who just counseling and just psychological evaluation of their situation and coming to terms with the period of menopause in itself, they are able to deal with the symptoms and, you know, handle the symptoms very, very well. Others, exercise help their, you know, their outlook about the disease, and they are able, and not even a disease, because menopause is not a disease.
It's
all right,
just
so
a
but
stage
physical
of life.
activity helps to your sense of well-being as well. The physical activity also helps to prevent the osteoporosis or reduce the incidence of the osteoporosis that will accompany menopause. So if you are physically active before the menopause, you build enough bone density so that the osteoporosis that happens is slowed down while you're going through
so it will happen, it's just that your bones would have already been built up significantly so that you don't feel the effects of somebody who has
if you're not physically active, then obviously as you age, you will lose bone density. And if you eat a lot of soda and soft drink and all those things, they also contain phosphate and other things that also lead to osteoporosis. So consumption of this refined, empty drink calories also accelerate osteoporosis. So if you do that and you are not active, obviously osteoporosis will be faster when you reach menopause.
Dr. Max, thank you very much for your time. Is there anything else you would like to add before we end the program today? Anything that you figure the viewers need to know? Or just remember before we end today?
Yeah, basically it's just to let us, you know, keep active, reduce your calorie, watch your diet, watch your portion sizes, and keep physically active.
And if you're not sure if you are menopausal, check with your physician, explain what's going on with you, how you're feeling and so on, and get the necessary help, treatment that may be required. Okay. Thank you so very much for joining us on today's program of On Call. See you again next week, same time, same place, for another program. Have a good evening.